Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our digital reporting webinar. I'm Clive Bidwell, Strategy Director at Friend, and today in the new AI era, we'd like to help you ensure that your reporting is AI readable. Now, as we all know, investors are using AI to assess organizations. And as you may know, AI prefers HTML to PDFs. So if your annual report or your sustainability reporting for that matter is just a PDF, it's not being seen by AI. And if you've created your ESEF filing from a PDF, I'm afraid that doesn't cut it either. The good news is that there are solutions to this issue. Digital first solutions that will improve engagement with your report for both humans and machines, improve the efficiency of your process, and ensure you comply with reporting regulations. So in this 45-minute webinar, you'll be hearing from two companies that have embraced digital first reporting, as well as a leading authority on the subject. James Rennie is Group Finance Director at Oakley Capital, a FTSE 250 company that offers investors access to fast-growing private businesses. Rory Nussbaumer is the Global Sustainability Reporting and Strategy Manager at agri-science business Corteva, an S&P 500 company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. John Turner is the CEO of XBRL International, the organization that manages and develops the XBRL standard for digital reporting. And I'll also be joined by my colleague, Brett Simnett. Like me, Brett has bags of experience in the world of reporting, helping companies to make stronger connections with their stakeholders. Together, we hope to share how reporting can thrive in the AI era. We'll save 10 minutes or so at the end for your questions, so please use the Q&A function at the side of your Univid window, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Incidentally, we'll send you all the slides afterwards, and of course a video of the event will also be available. Okay, first let's agree what digital first reporting is. After all, it's a term that's bandied around a lot. So it's useful to clarify exactly what we mean by it and why that's important. Let's start by defining what it isn't. It's not the digital reports we've seen over the last few decades and still see today. HTML reports produced as a parallel process using different software to the master PDF version, which were and still are expensive, time-consuming, and prone to human error. Back in the day, one or two companies used to duplicate their entire annual report in HTML, but now the 50 or so FTSE 100 companies that provide a digital version of their report only present a tiny fraction of the report's content in HTML, typically sharing, for example, a paragraph of the CEO's review online and asking the user to refer to the PDF for the full story. That's clunky for humans and impenetrable for AI. Digital first reporting is not most companies' ESEF filings either. Invariably, these are converted from the PDF at the end of the process, often resulting in poorly structured HTML, which is also challenging for AI to access. And obviously, digital first reporting is not a landscape PDF. Sure, that format may help some read the PDF on a laptop, but it's still a PDF. So, having dispelled some misconceptions about digital first reporting, now let's define what it actually is. As the name suggests, digital first reporting is created in a digital format, in native HTML. It's one source of content that delivers multiple outputs. The full HTML report, the ESEF filing with XBRL tagging, the PDF, and the print-ready artwork. This creates reporting that is more engaging, more efficient to produce, that complies with reporting and accessibility regulations, and crucially, is AI readable. For users, both human and machine, it allows comparison of companies across sectors and from year to year. It's what regulators envisaged when they mandated ESEF or UK SEF. And it's this digital version of your annual report that's the mandatory version, not the PDF. And that's been the case since 2021. I hope that's clear. I hope that helps to clarify what digital first reporting really is. Now I'd like to hand you over to Brett to cover what it takes to move to digital first reporting. Brett, over to you.
Thanks, Clive, and good afternoon, everybody. So ultimately, digital first is about a change of mindset and focus in the reporting process. Being led by a PDF print output no longer delivers what your readers, whether that's human or AI, need. And firstly, it's a change to a focus on content, developing and tagging your reporting content in a digitally native environment, not a print-led environment, which can then be outputted to multi-formats with an accessible background source applied to them all. And just to re-emphasise, as Clive has already mentioned, the ESEF format is your official filing. It is not, and it should not be a secondary process to the PDF. It should lead and it should be easily accessible from your website. So start to think about the audience's needs. How are they assessing your report? Is it through AI? Is it SEOs or your website? Is it via mobile, actually 80% of the time, or is it desktop? So how can you make it easy for search options to find your report, access its data, and just as importantly, easily compare it to your peers? And finally, don't be scared by past experiences of convoluted and burdensome digital processes and add-on tasks. There are systems out there that keep the process of reporting familiar and in fact enhance the process experience and automate tasks while delivering multiple outputs, PDF, online, ESEF, without the extra need of processes like we see today. As Clive mentioned, a little later on this afternoon, you will hear from James from Oakley and Rory from Cortiva, who have both embraced the digital process, and we'll talk about the benefits they have experienced. But firstly, we're going to play a short interview with John Turner, CEO of XBRL International. As Clive mentioned earlier, XBRL International is a global consortium that manages and promotes the technical specifications that allow the digital preparation, exchange, and consumption of financial performance and compliance reports. John sets the scene from a regulatory perspective in the UK and internationally, and why digital reporting and XBRL are critical to AI. I hope you enjoy. Just give us a summary of the importance of that ESEF filing.
Sure. So European and then UK regulators for public companies, so the securities regulators, moved a lot longer ago than 5 years ago now to decide to move towards digital reporting. In the UK, perhaps it's surprising that it took this long because the UK has been a long way out ahead. For listeners in the UK, you're probably aware that HMRC, the tax authority, has been collecting a digital and inline XBRL version of the financial statements for every company in the country. And that's every company. We need to go and check, but it's something like 2.93 million companies every year provide information to HMRC in a digital form. And that's been going on since 2011 or so. So it's kind of business as usual and old hat for accountants and many people in companies across the UK. However, the securities regulator had not moved in that fashion, but moving in concert pre-Brexit with the European authorities, they indeed developed the European Single Electronic Format. Of course, we now call that in the UK SEF, because that runs off the tongue too. United Kingdom Single Electronic Format, which is just a long way of saying XBRL, which I admit is not necessarily the easiest acronym. Just think of it as digital reporting. We think that the UK needs to follow in the footsteps of some other jurisdictions, ensure that the very first thing that comes out is the digital report, and indeed that it has complete coverage, so that it's covering all the notes to the accounts as well. But that's a policy decision, and these things take time.
Do you think companies recognise the importance of their digital filing? against, say, the PDF version?
Oh, there's a big mixture. I mean, some companies really get it, and I think I mean, I've spoken to some issuers who understand the world that we're living in. We're living in an AI world, and if an AI has to consume information from a third party, from an information provider, well, you know, that information is good. It's not necessarily exactly what it is that management has created, but that information is much better than if the AI is asked to go and acquire that information that sits in a PDF itself. And you know, people do that as well. So companies that understand that sort of hierarchy of quality and hierarchy of truth, because we want a single version of the truth that comes back to the company, really do appreciate that not only is ESEF the official version of the report, but that is, as we go forward in an AI era, the only thing that matters.
And what do you think, what's your opinion on the quality of ESEF filings in the UK?
It started off moderate. It has definitely improved. It's improved very substantially. The exercise that companies need to take in bear in mind is that this information, even if it turns out to be historical information, you know, investors and investors' models look at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years worth of data at a time. So your information that you're producing today is going to be very important in 8 years' time, as well as it being important today. So issuers need to be thinking about whether or not they've gone through a process that ensures that people and systems can, in an entirely unambiguous manner, understand the information that's being consumed. There are other issues associated with, in particular, the mechanism by which the XHTML, the representation of the information, is captured. If that is being converted from a PDF, then depending on how that is done, you will find that the end result is not as machine consumable. The XBRL is not as machine consumable, and the HTML is not as machine consumable as we could all hope for.
Are the companies putting the checks around the quality of the ESEF filing in the same level that they're doing on the PDF?
I mean, some of them are, many of them are not, and take the cue from their users, and they will take the cue from the regulators. But it provides a really rich framework for people to do data quality checks, and not just on, you know, whether I got the right tag, but how that information compares with peers, how that information compares with the information you provided in the past, and indeed how that particular piece of information that's sitting on the face financials or in the notes of the accounts, or indeed before long in a sustainability disclosure, that information can be checked back to source. You can trace back to that information. There are plenty of systems that help people do that right now, and I think that those systems will become more and more intelligent.
But how does XBRL and AI work together, or is there a conflict?
No, we don't think there's a conflict at all. We think that once you get past the mental hurdle, and I'll come to that, you begin to realize just how important it is that machines have not just high quality information, but high quality definitions that are machine readable. And that's exactly what XBRL provides. And if you are able to provide a machine readable version of your information and a machine readable version of the standards that you're utilizing to prepare that information, then AI can do a vastly better job.
Do you see a future where the PDF print report is fully replaced by the digital version in the UK?
I do. I don't know how long that will take. It's a cultural thing rather than anything else. If you look at markets like Japan, like the United States, I mean, there's no PDFs in those environments. But I think it is very likely that people will move beyond PDF, because that's very, very difficult for machines to understand, and rely instead on fully structured information. So that means more tags in it than exist today, because that provides more information to the AI, but equally that information will be more easily consumed, more dynamic, more interesting for the consumer. I think it's very easy if you look at the breadth and shape of the UK's really very, very sophisticated markets. It's often easy just to step over the fact that even this exotic derivative that is consuming that is representing information across a bundle of securities and is providing some risk measure or some new asset class. All of that is actually based on some fundamental information that comes from companies. And I think it's very important that as we continue to have a growing and increasingly sophisticated financial market, we don't lose sight of the importance of the fundamentals. They're called fundamentals for a reason. And those fundamentals need to move forward in an AI era into an environment where everybody is able to rely on the fact that management has produced a high quality digital disclosure. They have done that first. They didn't produce a PDF first. And that idea of a single version of the truth is what becomes the platform on which everything else sits.
I know John's joined us on the call today, so thank you, John. And I'd really like to thank you for talking to us. I know you're a very busy man, but I'm sure that there's quite a lot of questions that people would like to ask at the end of the webinar. Just to summarise some of the points that John has made, and again, we're going to emphasise this quite a few times through today's webinar, is your ESEF is your official annual report. So treat it with the same care as you do the PDF. Structured native HTML reporting is the only true readable source for AI. And XBRL allows for accurate comparability by AI and investor tools. And unusually, it is the UK that is behind the curve at the moment compared to other jurisdictions in terms of XBRL and tagging. So there is a fundamental risk to a company if AI and investor tools are going to other sources outside of your annual report. Now that leads us nicely on to start talking about audience. Clive?
Great, thanks, Brett, and really fascinating perspective from John at XBRL International. Thanks very much indeed for that, John. Yeah, now let's take a look at audience needs. So many aspects of everyone's daily lives are now digital. Restaurants, travel plans, product purchases, to name a few, they're all online and they have been for years. And when we search, we'll often look at the AI summaries first rather than dig through one site after another. And the AI summaries are referencing HTML sources, not PDFs. Yet despite this seismic shift, most reporters have stuck doggedly to the printed version and the PDF. And that's despite regulators urging companies to shift to digital first reporting. As you'd expect, investors haven't been slow to adopt AI in their assessments of companies. Recent surveys, there's a couple there, show AI usage accelerating among both retail and institutional investors. And as we've discussed, AI isn't getting its insights from your PDF report. It prefers HTML sources. Now, Brett has done some digging on this, so Brett, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Clive. Now, at this point, we thought we'd share some responses from AI in relationship to finding and reading annual reports. At Friend, we run a series of questions over company reports to see where AI is going for its data in relation to company performance. Now, in many cases, despite explicitly asking AI to review the current year PDF, it then apologises for not doing so, as it's too hard work to pass the PDF. So as you can see some of the responses here that we've had to some of our research. I did not actually access a specific PDF document directly in this conversation. The summary I provided was generated from my general knowledge. Yeah, instead, I defaulted to a knowledge-based synthesis. It's also interesting as well. It says I used index summary sources because search first behavior, so the easiest thing it can find. the accessibility assumption, assuming that the PDF is not accessible, so it will go to other sources. And ultimately, it was about speed over primary source verification. And here you can see the answer from ChatGPT on the format of reporting it refers to carry out proper analysis. So if I had to choose one format for overall access and analysis, AI will choose iXBRL, ESEF XHTML in terms of format, because it's the full statutory report in machine readable format, but also easy for the human to read as well. I'm just going to re-emphasize that, and just really important, I think, to pause on this, is really to understand the importance of your ESEF filing and your HTML filing. Okay, so you've heard quite a lot from myself and Clive. Let's hear from those already following a digital-first approach. James Rennie from Oakley and Rory Nussbaumer kindly talk to us about their experiences moving to a digital-first approach. I hope you find their experiences insightful.
So really what we wanted to do is evolve the report and accounts to be a document that's helpful to our investors, particularly around the retail shareholders, and to help them to understand the private equity sector in more detail, to understand the company in more detail. Report and accounts traditionally has been originally a printed document, then more online and interactive PDFs. But we really felt that with the evolving consumption of information, particularly through websites, retail investors are much more used to that sort of interaction. So really that's what we were trying to achieve. Private equity has historically been private, as the name may suggest, but somewhat opaque, I suppose, to investors. So really, we wanted to do everything we could to bring to life the sector, our underlying investments, our underlying performance. The other point was, we really feel that, not that many people in reality are going to read a report and accounts cover to cover, or certainly not anymore, particularly in the retail shareholder category. So providing information in bite-sized chunks and able to navigate to what matters to them, that really was the key drivers of moving to fully digital.
I would say that the biggest drivers is we were looking at other options to understand how can we make our different types of stakeholders understand our data more seamlessly, with more synchronicity and more just general ease in regards to how they're understanding the information versus just producing a PDF where you're hitting Control Find to find specific items. You've got those frameworks in the back like GRI, SASB, all those many things that maybe different stakeholders are looking for across different corporates within your industry. And that's where Friend's new Reportal platform came into play for us as an opportunity to digitize our report by offering a little bit more ease of access for the data itself, which now allows us to both have more Google ability to our data itself, where you can search specific sections and you'll get those sections just by Googling the report versus just one large PDF. As well, within the report itself, the search functionalities within it allow us to search for a specific topic or a different stakeholder, a different topic, and it actually flags where those topics are being mentioned in a nice highlighted form. And there's also an opportunity for us to look at the data in more detail because of this itself. So it's offered quite a few different benefits, both visual benefits, both searchability benefits, and just the opportunities there are pretty endless outside of static PDF that we're traditionally used to utilizing.
I think, if I talk about the kind of the production piece, which I and my team are responsible for, really it's a lot more seamless than it used to be. So there's now one set of data, one input, and you make one change and that goes across all outputs. So whereas before, and we particularly feel this right at the end of the process, whereas before you try to finish everything a week before, you then need to flow it through to various different documents. Everyone needs to check between the documents. That we've moved on from. We know now you make one change and it goes through to everything. That's really taken a lot of pressure off the end of the process, but also, in reduced risks, better control. So the production piece is a lot a lot easier, a lot more seamless than it used to be. I think the other bit that's really useful is the ability to see where people are interacting. So whereas before the analytics software would allow you to see how many people have clicked on the report and accounts only, now we can see which pages they click on, what they're interested in, how long they spend on each page, which allows us to focus on the areas that matter. I think, and then the other piece is it does feel very different. When we were producing our interactive PDFs, we were, very proud of them, and we still are proud of what we produced back then. But you really see the difference now that we've moved on to something that is digital first. It's miles in front of what we were doing before.
Before we were using an Adobe suite of tools to build out our PDF, and you think about the amount of time that it takes to make those incremental edits within the Adobe suite of different tools, even just the time it takes to reopen the documents when you're editing them 100+ times over in the course of your overall disclosure building cycle itself. The Reportal platform allows us to log in fairly seamlessly. It's a fairly easy login process. Anyone can log in from anywhere. It's got nice security in regards to its authentication processes. But then the editing itself within it is very easy for us to do. We can make very easy tweaks to the text pieces and providing comments and whatnot back to the friend team in regards to any structural changes to the design itself is very easy as well. So I don't have an actual studied number on how much time we've saved, but I would say it's about 10 times more time efficient in regards to just the employee time compared to utilizing the other competitors out there, just because of the way that you can very quickly make tweaks to the data itself, both in regards to just narrative text as well as for quantified data. We now have a spreadsheet that holds most of our data points that are continuously changing as we go through our audit processes with our third-party auditors, that allows it to automatically update and repopulate some of the data points throughout our report that are being calculated or have duplicability across different sections of our report.
So if we talk about the board of Oakley Capital Investments have been, super happy with where this has progressed. They've been part of that journey over the last 5 years or so, moving from a traditional printed report to an interactive PDF to something that's online and truly digital. So the board have been super happy with where we've got to. We've received excellent feedback internally across the business. Because more people have interacted with it than ever before. Back 5 years ago, people wouldn't be looking at a printed report in reality if they're in the investment team. Now they do. They click on the report, they can see some of the pages. And that's been recognised, externally over the last 3 or 4 years with a number of awards, each year for the production of the reports and the quality of the reporting. So, both internally and externally, excellent feedback. And anecdotally, quite a number of shareholders that we interact with have given excellent feedback as well. So all in all, certainly it's success from that perspective.
Yeah, I think they really appreciate the HTML view. One thing I really enjoy is when we're sharing out specific sections of the report to different audiences, be it an NGO or an investor, is we can guide them more directly to those statements within our report via actual URLs that are customized to the specific section of the report itself, just like a respective web page, basically. And that's been really helpful for them to further understand it, especially when we're talking about really complicated topics like our product sustainability that connects into some of our other goals, like our climate and biodiversity goals, as well as some of those risk and governance sections of the report that are located further back into the bottom of the report itself. And we're able to just help connect many different topics based on the specific questions that we're getting from these different types of stakeholders. So they do really appreciate this view versus us just handing them over a PDF and saying it's on this page, it's on this page, it's on this page. We can now give them links to each specific section. They can open up those specific sections and understand the text and the narrative and quantitative disclosures a little bit more easy.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I touched on one part of it before, which is the end of the process. The end of the process, the week or so that used to be spent reconciling between documents is now, a thing of the past. I think it's the confidence it gives them in terms of, making one change and not having to remember to do it everywhere. The simple things, or what should be the simple things, such as page referencing and internal consistency, that's pretty much automated now. And there's certainly no added complexity. So, it's only upside rather than downside. It feels an easier process than it used to be, and it's more. The software is easier to use than the prior iterations of report building software.
We get to have a little bit more fun with the design, I would say. We are starting to incorporate some really neat, more interactive elements into our reporting, especially for complicated topics that you need more visual to explain itself. A good example of that would be our overall journey in regards to our climate ambitions at Corteva, where we do have operational scope 1 and 2 goals, but we want to talk a little bit more about our overall product avoided emissions that we have due to our products, moving towards smaller containers, having lower use rates, having products that do nitrogen optimization and nitrogen stabilization. Some of those phrases I just mentioned are hard to actually visualize and understand as a common reader to general sustainability reports. So what we've done in our latest impact report is we've actually visualized a few of these phrases to help the reader understand what does nitrogen stabilization, optimization, product use rate actually mean. And you can't really get that with a static report. So those visualization elements that we've incorporated into our report really help with understanding that message.
Again, I'd like to thank James and Rory for their insight. Just the number of thumbs up and hearts that we've been receiving as they were talking just shows how much that obviously resonates with all of you. So let's just summarise some of the things they covered. And again, hopefully covering a lot of things that myself and Clive have already talked about. So it's that one set of content, so one output to all the different formats, and which gives you better control and mitigation of risk across that content, across all of your suite. It's really lovely to hear. It's less stressful. So you end up with less panic at the end of checking and so on, because you're only checking from one source of content. Your reports becomes far more easily for the reader to search and find the information. And also for the company, it's that detailed analytics of user behavior coming back to you year on year, so you can work on improving how you communicate through your report. And ultimately, of course, it's about timely. All formats can be published on the same day, so there's no delay between the PDF, between the online version. I think just hearing from the guys, hearing about that real life implementation of digital first and its advantage, I believe, is truly exciting. Clive.
Great, thanks again, Brett, and really good to hear James and Rory's experiences of using Reportal and the benefits it's delivered for them. Okay, before we take your questions, here's a summary of what digital first reporting using Reportal delivers. Now, I'm not going to run through all of the points here, but in the first column, better engagement, I think you've all got the point about digital first reporting being AI readable. Without that, your report is invisible. Other advantages under the engagement column, it's mobile friendly, so responsive design that adapts to any screen size, and that includes for complex tables. And as we heard from James and Rory, analytics that show which aspects of the report are drawing most attention, helping you plan future reports. Column 2, James and Rory also talked about how Reportal streamlined the process for them. They highlighted data syncing, content linking and automation of page numbering and cross-referencing as significant advantages. And there are many others, including integrated XBRL tagging throughout the process, so no mad scramble at the end. Column 3, compliance. Particularly important this year as regulators focus more on the quality of companies' filings. And of course, provision 29 comes into play, requiring boards to make a declaration of the effectiveness of material controls, including reporting. Okay, so I hope that's been a valuable session, helping you understand what digital first reporting really means, how easy it is to adopt, and the huge advantages it will bring to your team, your organization, and your stakeholders. I think in today's digital world, today's AI era, it really is time to move on from PDF reporting. Digital reporting is clearly the future, and as you've seen, it's happening now. Okay, let's move to your questions. Let's see what we've got here. There's one about the cost involved in digital first reporting. Is digital first reporting suite more expensive to produce than a PDF first suite? Okay, so I'll take that one if that's okay, Brett. Mm-hmm. I think the short answer is no. And in actual fact, the digital first process is usually more cost effective, particularly if a company has previously produced like a summary online report, which, as you know, would have been an additional process and an extra cost. I suppose another benefit of Reportal is that all the tagging and formatting is done at source. So there's no secondary processes to produce the online and the ESEF version. Once you're set up, the process becomes more and more efficient each year. Now, I think going off a bit of a tangent here, but this is important, but it's often overlooked, the controls of your ESEF filing. And that's why we formed at Friend a specialist ESEF XBRL team in-house to ensure that a company's mandatory format has been through all the necessary compliance checks, including checks on digital formatting and online usability, which is a key element of the FRC's guidance on ESEF filings. Okay, another question around why does AI struggle to read PDFs? Brett, would you mind taking that one?
Yeah, sure, Clive. So I don't know how many of you know what PDF stands for. It's portable document format. It's been around for many, many years. It was initially developed as a file format to deliver a consistent fixed representation for print and screen display. So very much from the world of print. So, but however, in digital AI-led world, the strength and consistency of the PDS, I guess, is starting to show its limitations. When a PDF is created, it is basically taking an image of a page. It's not text. So it's really, really difficult for AI to pass or process that information. So, for example, if your page layout within your annual report or your sustainability report is 2-column, AI will read straight across the page. It will read left to right. It will not read in the vertical. So it really struggles to make sense of the actual information within the PDF. I think I would also say is that PDF lacks that structured code, or the under the bonnet piece, which we've been talking a lot about today, about that tagging and so on, which means, those famous AI demons that we've all seen start to struggleize the meaning of the content, not just being able to read it. And I guess what that basically means in terms of the PDF, it leaves AI guessing to what your content really means. Hopefully that answers the question from the participant.
Great. There's another good question here, I think, if you wouldn't mind taking this one, Brett. Why do AI searches not find the ESEF file at the moment?
I think that's a great question, because obviously we've been talking again a lot about the importance of the ESEF filing and how useful it is to AI. But unfortunately, at the moment, in most cases, this is because the ESEF is stored on the corporate website as a zipped file. And the reason for that is it's, again, created as a secondary process from the PDF. So that ESEF filing is not created from native HTML, it's created from a PDF. So it ends up as being a large, clunky file size to actually upload onto your website, and is also a very clunky experience. So coming back again, so if you do digital first or the ESEF filing properly as a digital first filing, it will be your online version. So your ESEF file is your online version with inline tagging all built in. So it's really easy for AI to find, just like a website. And it's important, this has been recommended as best practice for ESEF by regulators and standard setters, the FRC, XBRE International, as we've been talking to John today, and makes the full ESEF report discoverable and indexed by AI.
Okay, thanks, Brett. Another question, does the digital first report process take longer to create? Again, the short answer to that is no, it doesn't. Again, it's all about starting with one central source of content that's applied across various formats. So as we've stressed before, it's not like the old way of producing digital reports, which was kind of two parallel processes using different software and kind of switching content between the two processes. It's one integrated process. And in fact, all the clients, including Oakley and Corteva that we've seen today, all the clients that we've worked with in this digital first process have all published their the different formats of their reports simultaneously on the same day. So there's no delay in getting either the online version out or the ESEF version out. It's all done simultaneously. Okay, another question, is the shift to digital first reporting easy? Again, the short answer to that is yes. Digital first platforms like Reportal have been designed to make the transition for clients as simple as possible, with the core kind of processes and schedules and editing all very familiar, all unchanged from the kind of current processes that companies are following.
I'm just going to jump in and answer another one here, Clive. We've been asked a question by Eleonora of what would you say are the most advanced jurisdictions in terms of quality structured reporting? Now, to be fair, I had to reach out to John for an answer here, but as he'd already mentioned within his thing, Japan, where all of their reporting is inline XBRL and has been for quite some time. And it's interesting that industry and regulators worked really proactively together to ensure that the data quality issues that we've seen here, and we've heard that FRC are starting to send letters out to challenge the quality of the data, was nipped in the bud very, very early in Japan. And the US is the other one where again everything is in inline XBRL and has been for 7 years. So as you can see, they are leaders in the set. So there's no PDF in sight for either of those jurisdictions.
Great, thanks, Brett. And we're on 2:45 now, so due to finish, but let's just squeeze one more question in, if you wouldn't mind taking this one, Brett. How does the client editing process differ from control print or Workiva?
Okay. Well, it's very, very similar. There isn't really a huge change in terms of control print. Except you don't need to download specialist software to do it. It's all through the web and through two-factor authentication. And just like Workiva, when you use Reportal, as I say, it's all done in the browser. The other thing with using Reportal, proofs of both the PDF and the online versions are available at a click of the button. So you're just toggling between the two different versions. So it's very easy to check both. And also all the numbers only need to be changed within the source content, which we talked so much about today. And these updates just automatically update across the versions. And as James mentioned, it just makes that end of the process, or reporting process, so much less stressful and easier to deliver.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, so I think we'll wrap things up now. So we didn't get a chance to answer all your questions that you've posed, but a huge thank you to John, James, and Rory for their contributions. Really, really helpful to hear their insights, and of course, thank you to my colleague Brett for kind of sharing the stage with me, as it were. And thank you to everyone for attending. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.